emergency, it is also a situation affecting our existence, including economy, businesses, jobs, everything. And it's a very important time, and we are happy to have such important people to address this issue together with us and the industry. So on the outset, let me extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Honorable Minister Shri Prabhulla Kumar Malik, our Minister for Steel and Mines and Works, Government of Orissa, at this e-conference. Thank you for being with us, sir, and welcome to the program. It's also a huge honor for us to have amongst us today in this forum Mr. R.K. Sharma, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Steel and Mines, who has been a pillar for a lot of activities in the steel and mines area. I would also like to welcome warmly Sri D.K. Mohanty, CGM Mines OMC, also our Devidutta Bishwal, IFS, Director of Mines, Department of Steel and Mines, who has taken over recently in this department to be also with us. My welcome goes to our very active and dynamic convener, Mr. Manish Karbanda, and the team of Steel and Mines, who's put it together. Mr. Sonal Chaitani, Head Corporate Communications, Vedanta Aluminium. Mr. Vidyut Chakravarti, Director Metal and Mining Advisory, KPMG. Mr. Sabyasachi Mohanty, Head Mining, ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India Limited. Mr. A.D. Sao, CEO Ideal Explosives. Mr. Prabodh Mohanty, MD S&M Group, and Mr. J.B. Pani, my co-chair for this conference. Just to put a couple of thoughts from my side, as we all know, Orissa is a mineral hub of India and hosting huge amount of operations downstream in steel, aluminium, and stainless steel, etc. in the country. Here, it has also recorded the highest mineral production valued around 50,000 crores last year. However, the pandemic has impacted badly, and there is a drop in our mining output in April and May only. Going forward, with the exceptional support of Government of Orissa, operations have started in many areas. We are also taking exceptional care for the SOPs guided by the government for COVID preparation to protect our employees, and also there are also challenges around lower demand and lower dispatch, etc., for mining outputs and the downstream outputs. In the aftermath of COVID, transportation of raw material also has become a challenge, especially in view of varying demands and fluctuations in the marketplace. And there is also an impact on the employment of people in different areas. Government has liberalized the mining sector to encourage participation, and a lot of players who are there in Orissa has been given full support by the government. We still have some more challenges, which I'm sure my colleagues will bring up during this deliberation today. I'm also sure that this e-conference will provide us a unique platform for all the stakeholders for creating a potential opportunities for meeting the requirements for continuing our operations. And once we get slowly out of this COVID in the next few months, we will be able to bounce back and deliver the required outcome for all our businesses and the state and the country going forward. I conclude by once again welcoming our Honorable Minister, Shri Prabhulla Kumar Malik, and our Chief Guest, Shri R.K. Sharma, and all our dignitaries to this program. And let's see that this deliberations take us to logical levels, and we would be able to formally summarize them and submit to the government for necessary action. With this, I conclude, and I would request, as Mr. R.K. Sharma has a meeting right after, I would request him to kindly address us upfront, and then we proceed with
Can I suggest a little change, sir, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
I would request if Mr. Kharbanda comes in, he gives his theme address, then Mr. Sharma can maybe respond to it. If that is okay with you, Mr. Sharma.
Yes, okay, no problem.
Okay. Can I request Mr. Kharbanda to please give us a theme address?
Honorable Minister, Mr. Praful Malik, respected Mr. R.K. Sharma, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Pani, and all the distinguished colleagues, it's indeed an honor to be addressing this August forum. Of course, we all understand COVID and we understand the impact of COVID, but as always, I think Odisha has done extremely well in taking up the challenges. So, in terms of we all understand that Odisha is the leading mineral producing state, and but it has reported a drop of about 66% in the mining revenues for the months of April and May, mainly due to lockdown and related disruptions. According to the data that I have, Odisha had a collection of around 641 crores till in about May, as compared to 1872, which is around a drop of 66% in the revenue. While these are temporary hiccups, but this, of course, revenue is a major factor for the state, and I'm sure various steps are being taken to really, and we'll all work together to find solutions as the conference move forwards to give some valid suggestions to the government. Despite the mining sector being classified as an essential sector, there has been low dispatch and there have been logistic disruptions which have reportedly impacted the mining output. So what has happened really is that the labor has not reported because the mines were working, and I think the government was providing all supports. But as there was the labor disruption and the villagers were not allowing other people to report to work, the production got impacted. And of course, several mines could not operate to the 100% capacity because the major buyers, which are the industry, were also not operating and they were facing similar challenges. So it's a complete supply and demand game, and I believe that the impact has been from both sides because the demand also has not been there. The green shoots have been that the Odisha government was the very first to have the auctions completed for many mines, and many more are in the offing. And there has been a good revenue collection from the auction. And I think by the facilitation by the government, there has been they have ensured that the mines start operating from 1st of July. And I think very soon we will see that they will start production and dispatch. By the production has started, the dispatch, which is up to the 80% dispatch that which has to be attained, if it can be on a monthly basis, we will see the dispatches happening pretty soon. So the mining, of course, because of the revenue, there has been lower GST collection. So there has also been a drop in the GST collection, which is also a cause of concern. The state, of course, I'm sure is aiming to augment mining revenue in the coming months. So because the new leaseholders have taken over, as I already pointed out, of course there would be challenges because when the leases go for very high auction bids, obviously they have to be made sustainable. I'm sure the government would have adequate measures to balance revenue collection and making them sustainable and prevent leakages. So, in one of the reports, KPMG, of course, has pointed out and given certain references on how China has fast come up back into rewind mode after the worst COVID outbreak. And there were certain suggestions which they pointed out, which China has been given, which of course leads to a slew of measures, one of them being giving export incentives. So I think if there is, in fact, in certain minerals, there are a lot of piles and piles of minerals lying which are low grade. So if these are given further export thrust and incentives, because otherwise they will be there, and they will of course have to be monetized, which will actually make it because if the China is buying, so obviously if there can be ways where we can monetize this asset. I think it will be better both for the mining companies, for scientific mining also, and also accelerate the development. However, having said that, the challenge remains on the logistics, because obviously as soon as the export starts, the logistics becomes a huge challenge, and you have seen huge queues happening in both Paradeep and Dhamba, which actually leads to a huge amount of problem for the export business. So that as the mining progresses, the logistics also becomes a very key framework for which we will request the state government to really address, because while there has been a lot of development on but a dedicated road corridors, transportation, strengthening the roads, which of course slows down due to rains as well. If that can be taken up in a expedited manner with the DMF funds, I think that would be a welcome step. I think DMF also contributed where the government allows 30% to be actually taken out for looking at various other COVID measures for the state. And I think the mining sector has very aptly contributed to the entire post lock. Not it's still not post lockdown, because I think it's still some lockdown happening in Odisha. So it is still locked down in certain things. So, but I think it has balanced, and the contribution of the mining sector has been to a decent category. So the the cash flow constraints, of course, as I said, have slowed down the consumer sentiments also. So various consumer industries which look at the final output, where the mining supplies have also been adversely impacted, and there has been a global recession as far as various other finished products are concerned. I would not say commodities, but if there is, it's a complete value chain. So if in the value chain one gets impacted, obviously the mining does get impacted. So while mining may be an industry in itself, but it's something which somebody has to consume. It's not that it's an end product and it can be actually be consumed in itself. Uh, Indian raw material is generally dealing from international prices, but I think with the coal index coming in, we believe that there is a national mineral index also in the process at the mining ministry. I would request the mining the secretary mining and the minister mining. I think Mr. Sharma would actually throw some light on the national mineral index, and we would have to see how the national mineral index addresses the problems of both the end users and the miners collectively, as also balances the revenues of the state. Because if there are certain steps which go, then the revenues of the state may get very adversely affected. Because of the fact that coal is a regulated sector, while mining, while other, if you look at, for example, between coal and iron ore, coal being regulated because a lot of the supply of coal goes to the power sector, which is regulated, and even the tariff is regulated. The end industries in case of mining are not regulated. So the regulation of prices, other things have to be very carefully managed so that the mining industry also survives as the end industry. So, in terms of the in end industry and the logistics, they are the two things, of course, which of course we'll have to see. And logistics is something which, of course, the waterway projects, the railway projects, and dedicated transportation corridors, which have to be looked at, because many times a lot of mines are in the same area. So they actually, they, if somebody is happening to work on NH215, it's crowded. If the roads break up, then of course there's a huge like pile up which happens. So I think certain solutions on logistics will actually help accelerate the mining, because obviously the industry is all interlinked. So on the base metals, the players might benefit from low imported prices on copper. However, we believe that demand will slow down before inventory comes down heavily and supply hits happen. Steel is dependent on coking coal, and port restrictions and vessel constraints is hindering availability to some extent, and the worsening exchange rates is also impacting the industries. But however, having said that, I think the export has still been, uh, something which has helped the industry keep going. Otherwise, the industry would have shut down because the domestic demand was extremely low. But in terms of the exports, the challenge always remain that the cash flow cycles gets elongated to at least 2 months. So providing a moratorium on loan repayment, reducing the cost of trade finance, providing wage subsidies on low labor-intensive mining projects is recommended from our side for the short-term revival of the sector. So we also believe that immediate funds released to the projects under the National Infrastructure Pipeline and providing relaxation in statutory and employee-related tax payments are other short-term recommendations. We believe that while the COVID, of course, the pandemic, it did bring in a lot of challenges for the industry. It has also made us learn certain things in terms of how to function remotely, how to actually take my hygiene measures, which are very essential for all of us. And I'm sure that we will come out of it in the coming 2 months, because there are a lot of developments happening. My 4-point, 5-point suggestion just is that we would request the state government to actually give special incentives to plants at Orissa for in terms of allocation and transportation from mining to first the plants and then taking it anywhere else out of Orissa, because a lot of industrialization, it's a combined effect, because the industrialization also contributes to the GSDP in bigger ways. So that would be a very welcome step. In terms of, as I said, the national mineral index, I think the the steel and mines would have to play a key role. I'm sure they are, but when Mr. Sharma addresses us, we will be very keen to know on how it is being remodeled, and how we are going to take that there's a balance between the state revenues and the mining industry. The logistics, of course, as I already pointed out, on dedicated corridors, if they can be thought about, at least in certain places, it will be a welcome step. Important railway projects are already under completion, and I think the state is pushing. And of course, export incentives, if they can be thought out for low grade ores, which have been lying in the mines and occupying space and preventing mineral conservation development, I think I think that should be another thing that I would request the state government. Obviously, the auctions have been happening in the state of Odisha, and I think Odisha leads all the state across India who have done auctions successfully and delivered a big value out of the auctions. But balancing and seeing how the people who brought these auctions at very high premiums remain sustainable without resorting to other measures is also going to be a big challenge. And of course, the new auctions, which actually would now be, of course, which was on the annual, we will request the government to come out because and reserve certain sections of the auction, smaller mines, for other players in the state, like the sponge iron and the pellet manufacturers, where they are able to compete with the bigger players. Otherwise, it may lead to a position where there will be a dominant position, which will later on be very difficult to manage. So with this, I think these are my initial comments for, I think, a brainstorming webinar. And I would thank Mr. Thomas and others who have organized it at a very short interval. I would have loved to, chair this session, but obviously I had a very important part heard matter, so I'll have to log off. But I will definitely like to hear Mr. Sharma. So I would request Mr. Sharma to please give his address now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Karbanda, and over to Mr. Sharma, please.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Honorable Minister, Steel Industries and Works Department, Mr. Malik, Mr. Pani, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Karbanda, other dignitaries who are going to address this session. In fact, I compliment ICC for organizing this webinar on the post-COVID scenario. In fact, for the state of Odisha, there are two major transformations or major challenges which have occurred simultaneously. One was how to go about switching over from one lessee to another. No, never before it has happened at this scale anywhere in the country. I don't know about other countries also, but this was unprecedented, where on a single day, about 1/4 of the nation's iron ore capacity leases were going to expire and new lessees were to step in. And of course, at the same time, on 31st March, where the lease period of about half of our working mines expired, we also had this COVID scenario, which created disruptions of its own kind, as mentioned by Mr. Karbanda, even though mining was treated as the essential service sector. And we got the state government as well as government of India to come up with relaxations as applicable for continuous process industries and essential services to the mining sector also. But still there were problems which we were aware of, which were rising at local level. And added to it was the problem of the availability of labor who had returned to their villages and were not able to come back and so on. About the auction, it was really heartening that we could successfully complete auction of 24 leases, 23 leases which expired on 31st March of 2020 and one lease which expired on 26th of May. So 24 auctions we have completed. We completed the auction of these leases which were having reserves of 4,87,000 crore rupees. And the bid premium which was quoted, it was very aggressive, competition for the purpose of getting mineral security. And the total amount, applicable amount, which is to be paid over and above the royalty, as per the bid, came to 106% on a weighted average basis, which amounted to more than 5 trillion rupees additional revenue to be expected over a period of 50 years, over and above the additional the current levies of royalty, etc. This was at the current prices. So as the prices go up, the revenue for the state's development also goes up. So that was heartening that we could complete these auctions without any difficulty. We could also issue, LOIs and vesting orders in almost all the cases. There were problems only in few cases. I'm happy to inform that out of 24 leases which we auctioned, in case of 18 leases, the mining lease execution has already been completed. And now these leases can go in for production whenever they want. We are also checking about the mining operation commencement. At least 8 or 9 mines, the operations have commenced. Dispatches had commenced 2 days back already in 2 mines, and other mines are also in the process of starting their dispatches. Mr. Kharbanda had mentioned that there have been disruption or constriction in the supply of iron ore. Thankfully, it could be minimized even compared to last year. If we look at iron ore production in the state, same time it was 43 million tons, and current year it got reduced to 21 million tons, about 50%, not 66% drop. But with the stock of the expired leases being liquidated, the total supply to the market which could be made available was 35 million tons. So about 14 million tons shortfall could be made up by the existing leases which have expired. Also, in case of bauxite, there is only a marginal decline because there was no disruption there. 4.85 million tons last year, this year 4.55. Coal, there is a marginal reduction of about 2.5% in production. Chrome, of course, there has been a major disruption and about 1/5 of the capacity only remains intact now. And this was a big, one very big mine where the period of lease expired. Now the lease has been executed, and we are looking forward to commencement of the mining operation so that in Chrome also the supplies can be increased. So this was a big challenge. Definitely, it's a matter of pleasure that we could come out of it. Even with with respect of the COVID situation, some of the industries have evolved, their own working arrangements, wherein they are like one of the companies has come with the concept of pods, where if one worker or manager in one pod gets contaminated, then it does not affect the operation of the other pods because of the isolation. I think other industries will also have to think of this kind of arrangement so that they can minimize the impact of this virus on the on the industrial operations. We all have to look at, how to carry things forward. Mr. Kharbanda has made a few points on behalf of ICC. I'd just like to touch upon them. One was making the mining operation sustainable in light of the very high premiums which he said have been quoted. Now, we take it that industry must have responsibly quoted, because during our pre-bid conferences also, we have been requesting the industry that we definitely, as the lessor, would like to maximize our revenue. So we are optimistic about aggressive bidding, but we were saying that the bidding should be responsible. Now, once the bidding has been made, I think we have to make it sustainable with our own efforts. The bidders who have done their calculation now have to stick to their calculation. Once the game has started, we should not look at shifting the goalposts or looking at the possibility of changing the rules so that the path becomes easier. Whatever is possible within law is being done. I think let us just see that we play our game fairly and in a gentlemanly manner, where in Odisha we have been most legally compliant state so far as mining operations are concerned. And we are looking forward to seeing that this complete compliance with the laws, procedures, and rules continues in the future also. The suggestions which Mr. Karvanda made, like incentivizing the industries within Odisha, I'll be conveying it to my colleague in the industries department who looks at the policy measures. Of course, one big advantage for the steel industry to be in Odisha is the logistical cost saving, which already is there and which is like an incentive which helps you, have your better viability compared to your competitors away. Certain disadvantages, but state is providing best possible support for the industries here, and we'll be working along with the industries department to see that the competitive advantage of locating within Odisha your industry stay and remain strong. One second suggestion he made was about logistics. Now, about logistics, we'll all have to sit together. We'll have to engage with the infrastructure departments concerned. And if ICC or any other industry association wants to, arrange for such a dialogue, we'll definitely get into and facilitate it. But this logistic planning we have to done in a very comprehensive manner. There have been some projects, some more may be needed, and in order to see that transportation of the mineral is also environmental friendly, we would definitely be looking at encouraging the low polluting means of transportation, such as railways, slurry pipelines, conveyor belts for reaching up to the railway siding, etc. So I think the industry associations must work together, come up with some definite suggestions, concrete suggestions, and then we can arrange for a round table with all the other stakeholders and take these concepts forward. This will be definitely a big step in reducing the environmental consequences of mining, also reducing your costs and making your operations more viable. So let us have another round of discussions and consultations on this. Export incentives for export of low-grade iron ores, I don't think that is a workable proposition. And as of now, anyway, I don't think the governments can come up with any fiscal incentives. Low-grade iron ore export has been happening. The prices internationally have been good. And I am sure those who are exporting do not need incentives. Rather, if any incentives are to be given, those should be directed towards the utilization of the mineral within the country. So I don't know whether this suggestion itself, whether other members of the chamber also would agree on that or not. Lastly, he had mentioned about auction of new blocks. We have very few blocks which are in the shape of being auctioned. And we are now seriously looking at pre-embedded clearance for the auction of the blocks. So that definitely, if we go in for it, it means that the time which you people take after auction for getting the clearances, which happened in case of 3 or 4 blocks we have already auctioned, the same time the government will be taking to prepare these blocks for auction. So I am definitely looking at pushing back of the auction schedule for these mines where we'll be going in for pre-embedding of the clearances. If there are any blocks which are available, and not to be pre-embedded, those we'll be looking for auction as the market improves, because currently we are looking at judging whether it's the right time for going for auctions or not. But yes, as soon as possible, as soon as humanly and practically possible, we'll be recommencing the auction of the mineral blocks after setting apart certain blocks for pre-embedded clearances. The department has been proactively looking at the possible challenges. From my side, I request the members of the ICC, those who are having mines, to look at more intensive use of technology for the purpose of monitoring the mining operations. Ideally, I would like to see where a situation wherein There is a 3D modeling of the geological report available, 3D modeling of mining plan is available, and continuous comparison between the geological report and the mineral availability in the block area is linked up with the mining plan, so that there are no apprehensions or complaints. In the past, we have seen an atmosphere of distrust created. Not all, most of the times it was not genuine, but doubts are being raised that yes, there are malpractices happening. So I think with the use of more technology, and we are going to introduce the drone technology for verification of the stacks and verification of the quality of the stacks also. We hope to bring that system by September. So once we can have drone verification for the volumetric analysis and possibly quality analysis of the stacks also, perhaps the scope of complaints will be less. And our I3MS system of Odisha, which was one of the most advanced systems of its kind in the country for the monitoring of the mining operations, we are continuously improving it. And I think if some of the industries can take lead in coming up with an ideal kind of technology-driven monitoring of the mining operations, perhaps then others can also follow. So on this, we'll be in dialogue with the new lessees who are coming in and the existing lessees who have substantial time period left for the mining operations, so that we can bring in more use of information technology for monitoring the mining. That will be the future, because I think the manpower requirements in this sector are so huge that government cannot always engage that many persons on the monitoring and control and enforcement. We'll have to use technology in order to improve our monitoring and allay all the doubts of people about possible malpractices. So this is a new era. Post-COVID is not just looking at the new normal. Another new normal is looking at the paradigm shift, where the mines from subjective basis of allocation, now it is based on the competitive bidding. So let's make it successful, and let us hope that the industry, government, and other stakeholders continuously engage in dialogue. I think if next time when we discuss the post-COVID, perhaps we should have other stakeholders also, other departments, other agencies who may really help guide us and help work with us in solving our problems. Thank you for organizing this wonderful seminar. I'll be listening to other speakers till the time of my next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's really inspiring to hear you. And also, just to update you, we have also been planning about this enabling logistics for the steel and mines industry, and we will get back with the dates and all shortly. It's already in work in progress for us as one of the key things, and which you have suggested. We will work on that, sir. And also this point on leading cutting edge technology to come into the new mines, which we definitely will work together on that, sir. Thank you. And is it okay for if any panelist wants to ask a couple of questions? Because as you are staying on for some more time, sir, if somebody wants to ask a couple of questions now, is it okay, sir? Or we continue with the...
That'll be fine. That'll be fine. No problems with that.
Okay. So I request if any panelist wants to have a question, you could ask to ACS, please, now.
Sir, I would like to ask one thing, that as we have been in ICC, we had formed a small committee to explore the concept, the entire problem of industrial logistics for the state. And so we have tried to get people from railways. We have got, of course, Santosh Mahapatra, who is heading the particular committee, and we have got people from road, and then we wanted inland water transport. So is it, will it be okay if this committee has once a dialogue with you and try to work out the broad parameters of the entire industrial logistics scenario for Orissa for the next 10 years, and then we can start working on it and prepare a paper or something, and prepare a document which can be used by the industry and the government.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. It will not just be okay. I'll say it will be great, if we could sit and discuss with the committee. So that way we can, perhaps involve the Commerce Transport Department at this stage itself.
Yes.
And get inputs from everybody and come up with a comprehensive plan. I'll definitely be very happy to be a part of your exercise. Thank you. That will be great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. My name is Sunil Taneja, sir. Sir, I would like to congratulate Odisha government for the successful completion of the auction. We have a lot of people at the ground level at Barbil because we are giving the support service to the mining industry there. Sir, a couple of questions, sir. You said that 2 of the mines have already started production. Do you foresee, by when do you foresee that the other players would start their production? Because that has a big bearing on the downline industry that are dependent on the ores.
I think instead of us guessing about when the production will be started, it will be easier and better to ask those lessees when will they start the production. Perhaps ICC can do it. Yes, we have our own assessments, but then let us not talk on what we think about it. Let us have the mines, and it's not only 2 mines which have started production. 2 mines have started dispatch. Production has started in at least 9 or 10 mines.
Okay.
The rest also, this is out of the 18 where last 18th lease has been executed only yesterday. So all of these mines, now from our side, we have done our bit. We have transferred all the statutory clearances to the new lessees. They have all the clearances required for commencing the mining operations. I hope that they will take advantage of it because they are also under a very tight leash of the guaranteed production for the first 2 years, which should not be less than last 2 years average production into 80%. So I hope that rest of also them will also be starting it very soon. But I think, if you want a definitive answer, it can be given by the lessee himself. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, so can we move ahead with the next speaker? Thank you, sir, for the answers. I request Mr. Sabyasachi Mohanty, Head Mining Operations, ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India Limited, to make his point. Kindly keep it to 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning to all. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and good morning to my all respected delegates. Actually, see, the mining is the basic industry which has got the multiplier effect. It's the impact of the mining is not in one stage. Impact of the mining is various folds. It's a initial part of the supply chain or value chain in any industry. So, if I consider the mining industry post-COVID and pre-COVID, if you see the pre-COVID in the mining industry, that is the growth of the mining industry from the FY13 to FY20 is the industrial production growth of the mining industry was CAGR growth was 2.1%. Although during that time there are a lot of hindrances are there in the industry, closure of the Goa mine, there are other illegal, rock commission and other things. But during the first half, that is H1 of FY20, there was a shortfall in the productions by 20%. IIP was in the mining by 20%. But there is a sudden jump. If you can compare the first half of the FY20 along with the second half of the FY20, there is a sudden jump. The jump is due to maybe this by 31st March, almost all the mining leases are getting cancelled, getting lapsed. So there is sudden jump. There is expectations that the shortfall of the availability of the material, disruption of the availability of the material. But in this, there basically practically there's no disruption in the availability of the material. This is, I must congratulate the government of Odisha for this purpose. The way the auction has been taken and during the COVID period also, the lockdown period also the transfer of the leases has been done, and although auction was done before the COVID period, I mean before the locking period, but the transfer of the leases, execution of the leases, operation of the productions, and continuity in the dispatch also during the lockdown period as essential service is fantastic. So there is no problem as far as the availability of the material is concerned. But by post-COVID, the mining scenario, in the post-COVID mining scenario, to get it more realistic and to get it more of improvement, I would like to suggest some reforms to be done. These reforms are basically everybody has got the mining. Everybody has got the mining now is a post-auction regime now. It's not a pre-auction regime. There is a huge difference of pre-auction regime and the post-auction regime. In the post-auction regime, people have got the mining with the bid premium. So definitely they will go for they have to produce the 80% of as per the law, 80% of the previous 2 years productions. But every lessee will go for the higher productions now because they have to cut down the cost of production to be reduced. So in the mining industry, at least in Odisha and anywhere in the mining industry, major part is the logistics. Major part is the logistics. The major challenge is the logistics, where it is evacuation process, and that restricts your productions. So for the purpose of evacuations, most of the people are thinking here for going for the slurry pipeline, conveyor, and all these things. But my suggestion is that we should think as an industry, or all the lessees should think for a common slurry pipeline, which can serve the purpose for the maybe 4 or 5 lessees or 4 or 5 big blocks. Common slurry pipeline, commercialization of the slurry pipeline. This type of things should be thought of. For this, we need a drawing board in which the common layout should be drawn with the different mine owners, come to an agreement that should be a common slurry pipeline from where that material should be transported. Otherwise, there will be a huge requirement of, if everybody goes for the pipeline, small pipeline, in that case, what will happen? There will be loss of the material, there will be huge consumptions of the water, huge consumptions of the electricity. This is a natural loss. This type of reforms in the logistics is suggested. Second is that reduction in time to value and risk to mine developer by re-engineering the process of granting the permission and licenses. Now all the permissions and licenses which are vested to the new owner is valid for another 2 years. So within 2 years, the new lessee has to get the permissions. So this has to be done in the very, aggressive manner, because forest clearance itself takes the minimum 18 months to 2 years. So here, although we are getting the support from the state government in various, we will continue to get it, but we require more support from the state government for getting these clearances. From the state government also, we request certain reforms to be done, like the benchmark prices. There's no benchmark prices available for host of the minerals that are traded in the country. So we require for that also. And blocks now which will be coming up for the auctions, although they are during this auction also, there are few blocks which are the bigger blocks like Noagaon and all. So blocks which will be coming up in the next auction, maybe the virgin blocks, that should be given in the larger, large blocks should be allocated, so that huge mechanization can be done and cost of production can come down by the way of mechanization. And if you if the bigger blocks are there, you can put your all beneficiation plant, everything inside the mine, and you can have the reduction in the cost, and your logistics cost, your consumptions of the HSD and other things, and electricity will be reduced, at least for the virgin blocks. Although we know that for the running blocks, it may not be possible. Whatever the running blocks are available, that has to be done in as in high risk conditions. But for the virgin blocks, it should be done. And as informed by respected additional chief secretary, that there are these pre-embedded clearances mines will take time. Yes, I agree. The pre-embedded clearances mine will take time, and once it comes up, it will be very good for the lessees, because we have got some experience, like 3-4 blocks which have been already auctioned during the year 2016, but not yet come into the operations. Although the clearances are going on, some of the clearances are in the advanced stage. Once this pre-embedded block comes, it will be put into the, and it is put into the auction. So production will be, I mean, it will be easier to put the mine in the operation at an first. Now, one more suggestions I would like to give: the reduction in the taxes. Although it is going on for a longer period, the royalty over the royalty. Now the mines are being allotted on the basis of the auction. It's a bid premium is given, then your royalty, DMF, NMET, everything is there. Lessee is paying. So although it is a state, not a state chapter, it is central chapter. So that that royalty over royalty, that should be now taken up by the industry, taken up aggressively by the industry, and that modifications in that price, the royalty calculation of the royalty, modification of calculation of royalty should be done, because on the basis of that only, that will give you the basic price, and on the basis of that basic price, all other taxes are calculated. Your bid premium is calculated, your royalty is calculated, your DMF is calculated, NMET is calculated. That, because that is the base price. Yeah, hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Am I
yes,
audible?
yes, sir. Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So these are the few suggestions that I have to like to give to the, I mean, panelists, or give to our industry association, and some request to the state government also. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mohanty, for your valuable inputs. We now move to Mr. A.D. Sao, COO, Ideal Explosives Limited, please. Mr. Sao.
Good morning to all. Unfortunately, I'm not visible because my camera seems to be disabled. Anyway, like Mr. India, I would be addressing all of you with some of my points. I congratulate ICC for this very relevant topic, which is a burning topic, post-COVID-19 scenario in mining sector, adopting the new normal and moving forward. To tell you frankly, the present situation is an unprecedented situation which India has never faced. Even during Second World War, when there was a worldwide recession, then also we were not affected by that. And in recent past, when there was several global recession, recent past in 2008-10, when all the American countries and Europe and your Southeast Asia, they all got affected. India was not affected. One of the reasons was, I find two good reasons for India not having been affected by this global recession was that we have a large consumer base. So we are self-sufficient in consumption, and we are not dependent on our manufacturing and economic activity on exports, and we are sufficient enough to consume whatever we produce. So this was one asset. Because of our larger population and huge human resources, this was a boon to us. And second thing is, rightly, we had a mixed economy. We had a private sector and we had a public sector. So public sector gave a lot of support, and whenever there was a downslide in the economy, and the private sector, which could not cope up with the competition, at that time public sector gave a lot of support. Now, having analyzed this, I feel present scenario where we are all affected by the global recession, and India also is for the first time getting affected, and God knows how long it will continue, because till date we have not yet found a solution for this COVID pandemic. We have to first give priority to what exactly has happened. The effect of your COVID was the first severe disruption of all economic activities for over 3 months, which is still continuing. So all the economic activities got disrupted. This has created a consequent demand drop, leading to acute and unprecedented recession. The third factor which has affected this COVID was migration of workforce due to lockdown, further aggravating the industrial output. And all of them have affected the power consumption, offtake of power, And power consumption is a direct indicator for our industrial and commercial activities. And in first 3 months, 25 to 30% of power consumption has gone down to the information available. And this has obviously, initially, if we find within two days, all the mining activities, mainly in coal sector and even in Tata, this thing they could start. And being your essential commodity, even we explosive company Ideal was the first to start their operation all over the India, and we could feed and maintain the supply lines to the mines, which was helpful in your not upsetting the economic activity. But what exactly has happened that even in the mining activity, since the demand came down, at the time of on 31st March, if you find the coal block, pithead coal stock in the your power plants were almost 50 million tons, and pithead stock in the coal mines were around 70 million. So they had over 1 month of stock. Now there was a drop in production by 25, demand by 25 to 30%. And this also affected the drop in demand, your production from the mining companies, mainly Singareni Coalfield and Coal India Limited. And this has in turn also affected our business also. Our business was also affected by 25 to 30% during these first 3 months. So this was the impact of the cyclic effect and cascading effect of the stoppage of economy. Now, how do we address this problem? The thing is, we have to restart, kickstart the economy, which has totally been stopped. Everywhere, the demand from the grassroots level has totally stopped. So even if the industries are able to open their mines or their plants, they are unable to meet they are unable to supply because there is no demand. So responsibility lies in with all of us to kickstart your demand. This can be done initially because there is another fallout of this. The fallout is that the total cash cycle has been severely affected. Even though there was a directive from the government, and particularly for the public sector and major companies, to see that the suppliers and mainly small suppliers are given payment on time so that they can run their business. But unfortunately, this has not been followed. And as a matter, as a result, the debtors day, which used to be roughly around 50 days, has now gone up to as high as 6 months. And some of our when our consumers are not paying even for a year. So MDOs are the worst sufferer. The small miners are the worst sufferer. Your small industries are the worst sufferer. So the cash cycle has been totally disrupted. Now this is all having a cascading effect. And how to restart it? This is how to start the demand and how to increase the consumption. Here, the suggestion, and government has already done it. This is today, government has got surplus fund. They do not know how much money they have got. So the thing is, they have to create demand by pumping in more money in the infrastructure. We are finding that today all the industrial activities are getting affected mainly because of the improper routes in the infrastructure. So this is a time and an opportunity for the country to consolidate and pump in more money in the infrastructure, which will flow money into the market, create job employment, and create demand for all your downstream industries like cement, minerals, agglomerates, iron, and all other things. So infrastructure and even this construction sector seems to be one of the area where a lot of money government has to pump in, and even they should make a tax holiday. If you see in Pakistan, what they have done is they have announced that no question will be asked if you invest in the building construction sector, where the source of money will not be asked. The whole thing is the money lying in the hands, unaccounted money lying in the hand, has to be brought into the system. And that is why I find that the best way to kickstart the economies, put more money in the construction and infrastructure sector, and that in turn will create a demand for all the your other industries, including mining industries. Now, non-availability of labor is one problem which everybody is talking about. Really speaking, if you see, this pandemic has started kicked in to the country from the foreign countries, and mainly through the places like Delhi, Bombay, from where there is an ingress of passengers, other people. So the larger city, bigger cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, they have been worst affected because of this pandemic. And being in the remote area, the villages and the mining area have not been affected that much, as was affected by, as the other places have happened. Our experience has been, since we had been employing most of the son of soil people, local people, and we have not been dependent on the migrant labor for these activities, our activity was not affected to that extent. So the learning which was there, and this has already been appreciated by all, that putting the local people on employment would have solved this problem of migrant labor. Now even migrant laborers are also realizing that when the real crisis came, the employers left them high and dry, and they remain unattended. And today they have gone back to their places, and now they are having a serious thought whether to go back to their place, to go back to the places when uncertainty of COVID is still continuing. So the migrant labor problem can be only solved if we can have local people and son of the soil people employed in the activities, and this has been our experience. There may be a special and typical problem in other industries, but our experience has been that we have not been affected by the migrant labor problem, flight of manpower, because we employed most of the places the local population. And another thing is that since these are mining areas and our plants are all in the remote areas, they have not been much affected by the impact of COVID. This is my experience, and everybody may have their own views, but this is what I feel, that the only solution seems to be, if we have a migrant labor, we have to provide them a proper facility, and if we can avoid that, best is to go for the local this thing. Then another point which I like to see, the rot in the mining industry has started not during the COVID period. It has started 5 years back, when there were a lot of uncertainties which came from various reasons. Today there is a lack of trust. You see, as rightly pointed out, deallocation of coal block, deallocation of mineral blocks, and all other things, stoppages of iron ore mines due to the environmental problem. So the mining industry growth has been adversely affected during last 5 to 6 years, and this uncertainty, the atmosphere of uncertainty continued to remain. Now, thankfully, government has now taken good action, and these uncertainties are going away. Odisha has done a good job of timely allocating your mineral blocks, and hopefully, if we can reduce the time period for opening up the mines, which is in our country much more than other countries, then the economic activity can be restored in a much faster way. One thing which I find, there was a talk going on that should we subsidize the ailing industry? Today mining is also an ailing industry. So recently, if you see, we killed your API industry by getting cheaper imports from China. Now we are realizing, no, we should have allowed our API industry, which was in their peak during early 2000, early years of this century, because import became cheaper. Now government is realizing that no, we have to keep our industry running, and we can't all the time think about the profit or the cheapness of the product. So recent news is today or yesterday news is that API industry is going to be given a huge subsidy in order to make it run. Now there is no reason why, if mineral industry becomes unsustainable for some reason or other, because now you have made it a market economy, then government should come forward to keep this industry alive. The industries which are running sick because of the your competition, because of the your cheaper import, like import of coal and all that thing, government has to give protect them by subsidizing them. This is one idea which government has to think again and again, because what they have done it and they have realized is in case of your pharmaceutical API industries. So this is one area where we cannot dismiss the idea of protecting and subsidizing our industries which are not able to compete in the atmosphere, rather than killing the industry itself. This is my remark on your whether to subsidize or not. Now, this moving ahead, boon or ben. What we are finding, another thing what I am finding is that the compliances in mining industry in our country is much more. And today we have the greatest competition from China, where I think the compliance is not there at all. They are using such type of explosives which are not permissible anywhere in the world. They have over 10,000 of death to violation of safety norms. And the salary structure and the wage structure of their people, mining people, is one of the lowest, and the exploitation is one of the highest. No doubt.
Sorry, Mr. Sao, could you please conclude, because we have many speakers also.
Sure,
could you take a minute and conclude? Thank you.
So I would like to conclude that the mining industry has a problem of high cost of production, and explosive is very important input for that. And we have a tendency to cut cost on the explosive, whereas the explosive and good blasting will cut down your total cost of production. And new technologies are already available, such as the electronic detonator, for having a eco-friendly and good your mine-to-mill blasting, which will improve upon the total performance of the mine and the profitability of mine. So this area should be looked into. And another thing is the economy of scale of mine also needs to be with the larger machineries, because today we are operating with smaller benches, smaller machineries, and smaller equipment. So we need to modernize and scale up the your economy of scale in the mines by using more larger equipments and becoming less labor intensive. I thank you very much. This is what my opinion is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sao, for bringing in a different flavor of, including the mining cost and explosives, and with your valuable suggestions. Thank you so much. Now we move to Mr. Prabodh Mohanty, Managing Director, S&M Group, to give your thoughts. Mr. Mohanty, please. Please unmute, Mr. Mohanty. You are not audible.
Yeah. Kindly unmute, sir. Yeah.
Now I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Honorable Minister, Steel and Mines, Mr. Tilak Kumar Maliki, respected ACS Steel and Mines, Sri R.K. Sharma sir, Director of Mines, Mr. Devidar Vishwal, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Khavanda, and other dignitaries and panelists present in the webinar. I am indeed very thankful to ISE Odisha chapter for inviting me and giving this opportunity to speak before you on a very relevant topic, especially in the midst of Minister and ACS Steel and Mines. I am sure the mining industry in Odisha is looking forward and greatly benefit from the presence of these dignitaries. Yes, indeed, COVID-19 has thrown up a lot of challenge to mining industry. Every walk of human life is affected. Mining industry is not immune to that. And definitely, we are going to overcome this situation since it is unprecedented times. Mining industries in Odisha in the last 1 decade have seen many ups and downs, starting from the issue of illegal mining, Supreme Court cases, coming out of it, then a successful transition from the previous regime to the allocation regime. Now it is going through the COVID-19 crisis. Yes, of course, in the month of March when lockdown was imposed, mining operations, although it is in the exempted category, still it got affected since many of the workers, they went away to their native places. We miners also advised the local workers not to come in large numbers because of the risk of getting infected. The transportation also got affected because the truck movement was not there. And the other important thing was the secondary steel production, mostly sponge iron producers. They also stopped their operations. So there was no such demand for especially the iron ore. So mining operation was scaled down and it operated almost at 30% of its capacity. Then subsequently in the month of May, almost in the last week when this lockdown was lifted, the workers started coming back from other districts, and also the local villagers who were working in the mines, they also joined back, and mining operation started in full swing. And subsequently, the sponge iron producers, they also started their production. So hence, if you see right now, at present, the mining operation is almost back to normal. It is indeed happy to note when Sarma Sahab told that the almost 8 to 10 newly allocated mines, they have also come into operation. 2 of the mines, they have already started transportation. This is a very good sign. So we hope that post-COVID, although we don't know when this pandemic is going to end, so there is a lot of spike in the incidence of infection presently, but still as projected, we may assume that in the month of December or January next year, the things start improving. But we have to work within this COVID-19 thing, and we have to factor in all this and go for production and dispatches. So the main issues that is afflicting not because of COVID-19, but since long in Odisha is, even if last year we produced iron ore up to little more than 120 million tons, and we hope that this year will, even if there is a disruption, will be finally achieving at least that quantity. And even if there is a demand, the problem is the movement of evacuation of ore. As rightly pointed out by Mr. Karvanda and some other speaker, logistics is the main issue afflicting Odisha mining sector since long, because mostly the material moves on the road. The roads are not exactly up to the standard at present, but things about the work is going on since long. Even presently, there is a regular restriction imposed by the district administration on road movement. Every month there is a restriction. There is also a restriction for movement of ore to the ports because of congestion. So in order to actually the mining industry to achieve its full potential, we need to look into the logistics and try to solve this problem in a timeline, particular timeline, maybe in the coming next 2 to 5 years. Dedicated road freight corridors, the railway network, and slurry pipelines, these are possible solutions. So we need to take the government of India, the railway ministry on board. In this, the state government will be of maximum help because it can be discussed. Even the NERI recommendation speaks of maximum material moving through rails. So they have to take on board and impressed upon on the railway ministry that in the next 2 to 5 years, more sidings will be opened, more railway lines will be, especially in those areas, mining areas of Koida, Joda, and Keonjhar, this area. So it is the most important thing that need to be looked into, and I'm sure state government is thinking over it, and it will be done in the next 2 to 5 years so that the mining industry in Odisha achieve its full potential. Secondly, a long time problem is the approvals, various approvals that a mining industry or mining operation needs to start, mainly forest and environment. Now at present, the system of two-stage approvals is, I think that is the main stumbling block or main issue which is taking a lot of time. So we can think of having one-stage clearance. The clearance is may be given by the forest clearance, may be given by the MOF in one stage with conditions which can be complied with. And only after these conditions are complied, mining operation may start. For that, the central government should delegate the power to state government. Once the conditions are complied, it need not again go to the central government for approval stage to clearance, but it should be cleared by the state government. It should maybe at the level of DFO or the PCC project. Similarly, in the environment side, it takes a lot of time only because of the issue of the public hearing. It is almost like fighting an election to get elected. So public hearing that should be at least dispensed of for the expansion projects. Because when the project starts, it goes through all this nitty-gritty of taking public hearing, having public hearing, getting clearances. So again, during the expansion time, it need not go for. So there, the industry thinking is that it can be dispensed with, and we need the support of the state government to ventilate this to the central government so that it is approved. And similarly, there are many other small issues which need to be continuously addressed, like the issue of some speaker said about the royalty and royalty. So this is also a long pending demand of the mining industry with the central government. So it should be calculated without the royalty, because now the process, calculation process is such that it is royalty is again calculated on the royalty. Secondly, there are some anomalies in particularly in ASP, publication of ASP by IBM for Odisha. You see in last February and March month, the iron ore fines ASP from 58 to 62 is same. So it is really ridiculous. But for 55 grade iron ore fines and 62 grade iron ore is the same. So these anomalies also we have ventilated to IBM. Also will flag it off with the state government so that it can be corrected. So there are, presently it is always better to reduce cost of working, operating, because these things can also help in mining industry in achieve its potential. So these are the main issues. I think other speakers, they have also flagged these issues, and subsequent speakers which also will flag these issues. So we can meet together, and on this logistic and transportation issue, we can have a separate meeting as suggested by the CS sir. And so definitely try to find some solution in the near future. Otherwise, even if we go for more and more production, and even if there is more and more demand, we cannot move it. So it will be no use. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Monty, and really appreciate your points. And we are taking notes so that once we compile everything, we can submit to the government. Our next speaker is Mr. Amit Jain, CEO, Orissa Bauxite Business of Vedanta. May I request, we are slightly about 15 to 20 minutes behind schedule. So I would request each speaker to kindly save a couple of minutes for us so that we are, we don't go beyond 1 o'clock. Thank you so much. May I request Mr. Jain to come up and enlighten us.
Good afternoon to all. My apologies, there is some network issue, so because of that, my video is getting hang once it is starting. And it is a matter of delight to. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
You are audible, sir. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. It is a matter of delight, to interact with all all of you even during these unprecedented times. And the organization of this has been fantastic. I would like to thank Honorable Minister of Steel for his valuable time and encouraging the industry. Also want to thank R.K. Sharma sir for his presence and giving his guidance, which is most valuable and needed in these tough times. On behalf of Vedanta, I would like to convey that our sincere gratitude and appreciation to the state that government has taken so many proactive measures, and Odisha has been the only state where I can say and vouch for that industry has continued and had operated at its near full capacity levels. We are facing one of the worst times, no doubt on that, but mining in Odisha can actually play a very vital role in ensuring a very healthy revenue to the state exchequer, along with the creation of multiple livelihoods. Opportunities are there for lakhs of migrant workers who have returned to state. I would say Odisha is a strategic location. It has excellent connectivity in terms of either air, by road, by waterways, and is also blessed with skilled human resources. There is abundant water and power availability in the state, which makes it ideal place for investments. As we all know that Odisha has a major share, lion's share, I would say, in the country in terms of coal and other mineral reserves like chromite, about 96%, 51% of bauxite happens to be in Odisha, 34% of the country's iron ore and 25% of coal, which makes, it is a matter of pride that Odisha is recognized as a aluminum capital of India. And I'm happy to share Vedanta's share in this stays at about 60%. Odisha is having abundant reserves of minerals, and still we witness the import of bauxite and coal by the state-based industries for their operations. This is causing a major forex loss to nation and also employment loss to youth of the state. With abundant reserves of bauxite and coal, Odisha has the potential to not continue to stay as a national capital of aluminium. It can become the global capital of aluminium. And both industry and the state government can work together in this partnership to develop the right framework for sustainable development of bauxite and coal mining. We at Vedanta are very, we take all pride in our single largest investment in Odisha, over 50,000 crores in the remote areas like Lanjigarh, Kalahandi and Jharsuguda. We have set up the world-class integrated aluminium complex, 1.8 million ton capacity, alumina refinery of 2 million ton capacity, and power plants of over 3,700 megawatt. We are very happy to share that our investments have generated direct and indirect employment of over 4 lakh people in Odisha now. And most importantly, we are very happy to convey that we have connected Kalahandi to the, which is one of the most deprived areas, to the mainstream now. We continue to stand with the state in all times, all needed areas of support. In these times of COVID also, we have covered over 7 lakh people in the state, which is one of the key responsibilities of industrial sector in the state. We have always partnered the state government for sustainable development and care. And this pandemic, I would say, has also provided an opportunity in diversity, where we can combine with state government towards development in the mining sector by opening up new iron ore mines, new bauxite mines, by bringing them in auction, and coal mines. I would like to iterate that mine and make in Odisha can reduce country's import bill by over 1 lakh crores and create more than 10 lakh jobs for the youth of Odisha. and thereby providing a overall socio-economic development for the state. I will not take any more time, as I was suggested to save some time. So at end, I would say that I'm thankful to all, and it has been nice to interact and to hear suggestions from everybody. So thank you all, and I look forward for continued engagement.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. It was really nice of you to make it very crisp and focused, and a lot of good points came out in the discussion. And thank you for that. And also, thank you for updating us on the work which you are doing for the people. Now, I would move on. I request Mr. Vidyut Chakravarti, Director Metals and Mining Advisory Infrastructure, KPMG, to kindly address us. Thank you.
Am I audible? Jyoti, let me try and share from my screen. Then
Sure. Yeah, not an issue. Yeah, please.
Sure. I think that will save time a little.
Of course. Yeah. Bidutji, you can kindly share. Not an issue, please.
Yeah, I'm just sharing. Is my screen visible, Jyoti?
Yeah, it's now. Kindly make it full screen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I won't take more than 10 minutes for sure. Thomas, sir, thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it is a privilege to present in front of such a august gathering. Honorable Minister, sir, for Steel Industries and Works is there. So is R.K. Sharma, sir. We have already heard from him about the various specific initiatives that the government of Odisha has undertaken over the last 2-3 months, specifically post the successful successful auctions, and then in order to mitigate the impact of COVID on the mining and metal sector at large. Okay, we have also heard from various senior industry leaders already, and so I would try not to repeat most of the points that have already been covered, and stick to very quickly on a few points that I have observed in terms of impact that COVID-19 has created on the Indian mining sector at large, specifically on the key stakeholders across commodities. That is the first part of my presentation. And the second part, I would like to throw some light on some specific initiatives that the government as well as the industry may consider, apart from the certain initiatives they have already undertaken over the last 2-3 months. So as you can see, mining sector in India actually contributes around 2.7% to the GVA. I'm talking about 8.19 figure, and it provides employment to the tune of around 2.5 crore people, direct and indirect put together. We have had certain difficult period of time in the last decade or so, because of which this contribution of the mining sector to the economy has not really grown and kind of surpassed to the level of 3.5%, which was probably the aspiration that the industry had. Having said that, over the last 4-5 years, since the implementation of the MMDR Amendment Act and the slew of policy measures that the government has taken, both at the central level as well as at the specific state level, like Odisha, we were seeing some good traction in terms of growth of the industry. And if you just look at certain expansion plans like OMC, like NMDC, JSW, Vedanta, Tata Steel, all had, and most of them are already present in Odisha. Okay, their expansion plans got a little bit of hit because of this pandemic. So we were actually aiming for a significant growth in FY21, but just before the end of FY20, the pandemic kind of set in and kind of disrupted this overall expansion plan to some good extent. We have already seen the impact for Q1 that is already in front of us in terms of real data. And as the situations is progressing with a more number of cases that is coming up in areas which were not showing that much in the initial 2-3 months, it seems that the Q2 is not going to be significantly different. So we have to assume that H1 of FY21 is going to be a kind of a little bit of a difficult period for the industry, especially mining and metals. However, there are signs of improvement in Q2, which we'll just go through. But before covering all those specific points, I must appreciate the fact that the government has always taken specific measures. As Sarma sir also said, that it was always considered to be part of essential services. So mining on paper was definitely not disrupted in terms of production for most of the states and for almost the entire period of pandemic that we have witnessed so far. But having said that, because of labor availability challenges, because of transportation related challenges, and definitely and most importantly, that there is lack of demand in the steel, cement, and other and power, the main consuming sectors of minerals, we saw a significant dip in terms of mineral dispatch, which impacted in certain ways. Having said that, government has taken specific measures in order to safeguard the impact on the industry at large. For example, CIL, for example, has introduced exclusive auction for coal, and in order to in the pursuit of replacing imported coal. Okay, in order to so that those specific end use consumers can use domestic coal at a reasonable price. That is one initiative. There has been initiative like that 30% of the balanced EMA fund can be now utilized for COVID related purposes. So those are specific initiatives for the central government, the Ministry of Coal, Ministry of Mines, and the various state governments in order to safeguard the larger impact or disruption that COVID might have. Even without these measures, the impact would have been even bigger. However, mining operations had still been impacted in a big way. With lockdown restrictions gradually phasing out, we are seeing some signs of recovery in Q2. So if you look at this particular slide, where I have kind of projected the Q1 FY21 dispatch performance across the 5 main mineral-rich states within the country, vis-a-vis the Q1 of FY20, there has been significant drop in terms of dispatch. You take any key minerals in coal as well as iron ore, etc. Across companies, there has been significant drop in dispatch. But the good news is, if you look at the table on the right-hand side, that the kind of dispatch we kind of witnessed in April and May, there has been some good percentage improvement in June 20, and these are actual numbers. So we are seeing some signs of recovery that the industry has witnessed towards the end of Q1, and we can just hope that this improving trend continues for Q2, which is definitely going to help. If you look at globally also, there has been significant improvement in the last couple of months, especially. I just presented a few data points. If you look at BHP, Rio, Vale, the largest 3 players in the world, they had a significant dip in terms of their market capitalization on a quarter-to-quarter basis in this calendar year 2020, in the first quarter. However, from Q1 to Q2, there has been significant improvement. So they have bounced back within the commodities that they operate in. It has helped them to bounce back significantly. It is still not the same position which they were in on 31st of December 2020, but good amount of lost ground has been recovered by these big players. If you take one of the largest PSU, which is Coal India, and one of the premier players in the global market as far as India is concerned, which is Vedanta, they also lost significant market capitalization in Q1 But Vedanta has bounced back significantly over the last 3 months, and they have kind of improved by 68%, as we can see. These are all positive signs. I just wanted to throw these numbers in front of all of us just to give the message that all are not dull and dark at this point in time. We are seeing some positive signs that the industry is throwing at us. Having said that, one of the key impacts that the government has had to, accept that because of the low dispatch of minerals from the states, um, our estimate suggests, as on today, that the 5 main mineral-rich states are going to kind of lose to the tune of around 4,000 to 4,000 crores of revenue because of lower dispatch in FY21. These are all estimated numbers based on current scenario and the kind of lockdown that we have been observing across the states. From their revenue of royalty, DMF, the GST, and the share of corporate tax that they receive um, uh, as part of mineral dispatch. If you look at the coal side, there are multiple views from the experts. Our estimates suggest, as on today, that India is going to see at least a dip of around 40 to 60 million ton of thermal coal as compared to FY20, which essentially means the states and the central are going to kind of see a dip in their revenue to the tune of around 7,000 to 7,500 crore. Okay. Hopefully, these numbers are going to be downwards with some good signs of recovery that we have observed in the earlier slides. The second implication that we have seen, of course, there has been some specific measures undertaken by the Odisha government, and Sharma sir covered that in his speech, that we expected, and it was expected that there will be delay in operationalization of these recently auctioned mines, 24 mines. But having said that, because of proactive support and initiative from the government, I would say, and also the willingness to operationalize these mines at a fast pace from players like JSPL, JSW, and others who have really won, and ArcelorMittal others, we are seeing that 18 mining leases have already been executed by the government. And as Sharma sir said, 9 or 10 mines have already started their operations, which is a positive sign in itself. We also learned that probably the government is also contemplating to revise the production terms because of the lost time period of around 3 to 4 months, which is a mandatory production. There is a mandatory production clause of 80% of average production over the last 2 years on a pro rata basis that may be looked at. Not sure about the actual situation on this, but there are a couple of other things that probably need to be looked at. That there is, because the prior lessee can actually dispatch their minerals from their earlier mines till 30th of September 2020, there is always a chance of conflict for managing the whole ecosystem of transporters and other things, where the government may just see that whether those conflicts can be managed amicably by sitting across the table with these players. The other thing is about the validity of licenses, which was approved for a 2-year period, lost in timeline. Yeah, if it can be extended by a suitable time frame of, say, let's say 6 months or more, it will really benefit the new players who have got these mines through this auction process. Third thing is about the upcoming auctions. There is likelihood that this will get delayed, and as we heard, that it is probably going to be taken slowly but steadily with pre-embedded clearances and all, which is really a welcome step, because both parties, in order to optimize the return from these auction mines, as well as we see that if the market actually recovers and the demand improves, there is likely to be a better participation on these future auction blocks, and the government can also expect a good premium from these mines. So that is another point to be addressed across Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and of course for the 41 coal blocks that the MOC has identified um, for the auctions. Another aspect is
Vijay,
for the.
could you please speed up because we have crossed 10 minutes?
Sure. So I'll just take 1 minute more to conclude. The MDOs and MOs who are the backbone of this particular sector is also severely impacted because of the lack of demand in coal specifically. So the GENCOs are not in a position to pay to the DISCOMs. Sorry, the other way around. The DISCOMs are not in a position to pay to the GENCOs, and naturally the payment cycle of MDOs are getting impacted in this particular sector. They are also having issues like availability of skilled manpower. So those are the issues that need to be tackled in a holistic way. I'm just going to skip this particular slide on specific points about the impact on coal, iron ore, bromide. These are specifics, and being from the industry, we are all aware of this. I'll just quickly cover this particular slide, that when we are actually talking about a recovery plan from this pandemic, as far as this mining and metal sector is concerned, I think it is very important to divide this specific action items into 3 specific buckets. One is the response, and I'm sure this response phase has already started, and both the governments as well as the industry have already taken slew of measures in this regard, so that they're responding positively and aggressively to minimize the impact. However, there will be a phase of recovery which is beyond this response phase. And the recovery, the main objective should be to bring back the status of this particular sector at least to the level of FY20. Okay, so the main objective of this recovery phase within this FY21 should be to bring back to the earlier status of FY20, if not any growth. Okay, and if we can achieve that, that is a significant achievement. After that, there should be a resilience phase, which is more the long-term measures over the next 1 to 2 years, where specific policy initiatives which are long due. For example, if mining can be given the infrastructure status, okay, that will solve a plethora of problems of this particular sector, right from arranging funds for infrastructure development, like the kind of traction that we observed in the transport and logistics sector after it was assigned the tag of infrastructure, that really helped that particular sector. That kind of a status is long due for mining sector as well. Another important point that the specific mineral-rich states like Odisha need to work very closely with the Ministry of Mines is about rationalizing the tax structure. Okay, there is royalty over royalty. There are issues like that. There is issues like that people have to pay a royalty on CLO rates in place of fines rates. There are issues like that. Those need to be resolved. Otherwise, we know that in India, the overall tax is around to the tune of 60%, whereas the global average is in the tune of 40 to 45%. So there is a good scope of rationalizing this tax structure so that it helps the mining sector at large, which will help them in order to stand on their own feet after this specific challenge that they have faced through this pandemic. From the mining company perspective, I think it is important to look at it from a holistic point of view. They need to do their integrated production planning or IPP by involvement of larger ecosystem of players. In this regard, I would like to mention about the role play of MSMEs within the state. The MSMEs need to be the contributions of MSMEs need to be thought through, where the government also needs to jointly discuss with the industry that how the role plays of these MSMEs can be looked at in various activities within mining. It will help not only the local economy, but also the state economy as well. And it will help to recover very quickly within the next 6 months to 1 year if we can take specific measures. There can be strategic partnerships between the mining firms and the cash-rich contractors. There are large contractors or MDO players who are sitting with huge cash, but they don't know how to utilize that. Most of them have not even participated in auctions and won talks. So there is good opportunity for forming JVs and kind of utilize each other's strengths to leverage that and kind of act on that. And another last but not the least, I think it is important that the companies need to relook at their portfolio of businesses and need to see if there is scope for rationalization there, and if there is any scope to diversify into new businesses. Apart from that, there could be opportunities for cost optimization. Specifically, there are operating cost optimization measures apart from manpower cost that is available. These are all that I wanted to share. Thank you for the opportunity. My apologies that I probably overshot by 1 minute. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vidyut. And I hope you will, to the benefit of our members, you could share this presentation, which
absolutely, I will do that.
To us, a lot of good. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we move to our next speaker, Mr. D.K. Mohanty, CGM Mining, Orissa Mining Corporation Limited. Mr. Mohanty, please.
Yes.
Over to you.
Honorable Minister, sir, respected Additional Chief Secretary, Steel and Mines, Director Mines. So I have a small presentation also. So I'll request to start before we start the presentation, I'd like to say here that Odisha Mining Corporation was also not an exception. It also got badly affected due to COVID effect. And the worst scenario started from the last week of March, and it continued fully in the April and May. And during June only, we started recovering. So let us start the presentation, kindly. Next slide, please. Yes, so here I have tried to show that the year 1819 was in 1920 comparably to year 1819 was extremely good for Odisha mineral production, and it had a growth of about 19%. And also it has been in the iron ore, mainly the commercial miner had produced more, and the list is before you: Rumta, Sirajuddin, SL, OMC also registered a growth of 18%. We produced close to 12 million ton. Next slide. So actually, this depicts that how everyone has said, and we all know that due to COVID effect, it started affecting the dispatch from March last week. And to what extent I was trying to collect information from I3MS database, and this is how it has impacted. Average truck dispatch in the first week of March was about 18,000, and in the week 3 it was almost more than 19,500. But all of a sudden in week 4 it came down to about 33% it started. And the drop in the 4th week in the different commercial miner was around 70% or more. Even NMDC had to slash the price in the middle of March. Next. So actually, this is the Joda. It is a similar thing. The average truck dispatch figure, how it has been affected. So drastic drop in the transportation reduction. Actually, so next, this is the repetition of that. It is also reflects the same scenario. Actually, we made a customer survey. OMC, as a proactive measure, made a customer survey, wanted to know the real problem of different customers. Accordingly, wanted to devise an action plan to allay what are the problems to the extent possible by OMC. It wanted to help the industries. So the different regions from the survey, we found out that there was low demand. 82% of our customers reported that there is low demand. And all of us know the demand all of a sudden vanished. And also we have seen from the major public sector also, RINL reported there is no lifting, there is no demand. So next is impact on supply chain. The previous slide, please. So please hold on here. So actually during the customer survey, when we had found also that the working capital problem was maximum with the different buyers. Hence, OMC had to take up a reform in its sales policy to help the industry in the hour of their need. So accordingly, we have a policy of selling the ore on credit against the BG, and the interest rate from 10% to 9% it came down. And also immediately the buyers did not have the money to pay. Actually, it was earlier also available and buyers were buying on credit basis. So they had a credit period of up to 90 days. Now, all of a sudden, those 90 days were due, completed, and the payment was due. So, because as per their requirement, and it has been enhanced to 150 days, and that is the relief that we could offer. And also, this the interest rate has been brought down, and the price also, as a realistic measure, it has been the floor price has been brought down. So, during June only, we have registered a good growth. And next slide. Next slide, please. Here shows that how our main buyers, JSPL, Mr. Kharbanda is there, JSPL, Bhushan Steel, Tata Bhushan Power and Steel, and all of them, their lifting had gone down. But for somehow or other, the export market picked up. As a result, OMC could sell substantial ore, and in the June we recovered a great extent. Next. Chrome ore sale has been also increased post relaxation of lockdown due to increased demand in the domestic market. But ferrochrome price and manpower issues in the Sukinda zone has been acute. The buyers the plant owners have been complaining that whoever is coming for operation, the manual laborers coming operation for a plant, they had an issue with the local villagers. So it was almost in April, May, it was severely affected. Next. Bauxite, some or other we have, it was not affected much because Messrs. Vedant was also operating and we have a LTL agreement. So bauxite lifting more or less was not affected. Next. So our main issues are that the major buyers have reduced lifting. Impact on the revenue has gone down. I mean, we as against the last year sales of about 1,200 crore by this time, we have generated about 700 crores. So we are down by 40%. Revenue wise, we are down by 40%. So now, so what are the steps OMC presently is undertaking? So this year also we are committed to produce about 20 million tons, subject to getting EC clearance for our Doitari mine as well as Kurmitar mine. Those are in the advanced stage. But definitely, since it will come in the midway of the year, 20 million ton will be definitely achievable next year. Proportionately, whenever we'll be getting the EC, accordingly we will be enhancing our production. We have also appointed a mine developer cum operator at Kurmitar mine, and OMC is also contemplating to engage another mine developer cum operator at our Gandhamardan mine to boost up the sale. Now, so far the technology is concerned, OMC has already adopted a customer interface management system for all the buyers. The training is now going on through video conferencing. The training is going on. In this present system, everything will be online. There will be no physical paper transaction. They will be placing their orders, and based on the availability and their eligibility, the system will process, and with the approval from the competent authority, that is with the approval of managing director, the allotment order will be generated.
and the buyer can deposit their money through payment gateway, and the sales order will be generated, and after lifting is completed, then invoicing will also be done. Another thing we have already adopted, that is a stockyard management system at Daitari, where the weigh bridges are automated with minimum manual intervention. So there also the trucks are being identified through the system, and TP is generated automatically after the loading is over. With the help of boom barrier, the trucks are going out. So these are the things OMC is doing. And actually, the problem, as has been highlighted by many of my previous speaker, that the issue of logistics is also there, and different buyers come up with complaint that the rate, transporting rate, which the government makes notification by Commerce and Transport Department, are actually not adhered to. So this is something which, if solved, then maybe OMC will be largely benefited, and customers, as such, customers are more interested to buy from OMC than any other lessee. Hopefully, our relation will be strengthened, and the initiative that government sir has said, SCS has said, the initiative the government has already taken, we are sure to see better days. Thank you.
Thank you, Modi sir. It's been very nice of you to have brought in the perspective of OMC, which supplies number of minerals to the industry. Thank you so much. And Jyoti, is Director of Mines joined?
No, sir, he has not joined yet. He's still stuck up in the meeting, sir.
Okay. So we would, as time also has come, we would move to our Honorable Minister now. Sir, thank you so much for being with us for the full session, and I'm sure we are all looking forward to hearing from you. May I request Shri Prafulla Kumar Malik, our Honorable Minister for Steel and Mines and Works, to kindly give his thoughts to this session. Thank you.
Sir, kindly unmute, sir. Yes. It's okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Pune unmute. Jyoti, sir,
Yes,
Pune unmute hai gala, sir. Avatar dyan kanya. Thank you.
Sir, take it. Okay.
Friends, namaskar. I wish you are on good health. I am expressed my happiness for organizing this conference today during the COVID period. The nation and the world is going on a unprecedented period, and you are discussing during this period about the mining activities in our state. You know, our state is rich in minerals. We have a successful auction 24 mineral blocks, and 18 blocks have already made their agreement. Our Additional Chief Secretary have all clearly indicated the views of the state government. Our OMC representative also said about the OMC activities in this conference, so I need not to express on these matters. I have something to request the miners during this unprecedented period. I first request to all the miners and the players of this August gathering that they should see that the conditions of the workers' health during this period. Secondly, we should take steps for a scientific exploration of the new mineral blocks, and should see that eco-friendly action. Thirdly, we should see that the economy of our state, for growth of our economy of our state. Lastly, I request all cooperation from the minerals, and I assure you that our ministry will give all help to the mineral block miners and the industrialists in our state. You know, our Honorable Chief Minister always cooperating to the miners, and he has advised us that nobody will harassed in your ministry, and we are doing as per their advice. We are taking steps not to harass any minors or anybody in the ministry, and I have already given. I have already requested our officers not to harass any industrialist and miners in this regard. And I lastly hope all cooperation from miners and industrialists. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words, and it's very, very encouraging for us as industry to hear this, and the kind of support we have been getting from you personally and from the government of Orissa has been exceptional in these times, based on which we could do a lot of things, including what Mr. Sharma mentioned about executing leases. I can tell you, we have done 3. The way the things used to go back and forth were like in hours. So that is the speed and that is the support which we have got from the government, and thank you very much for that. I would maybe open this for 1 or 2 questions, because we are already towards the end of it. If somebody has a question, kindly raise your hand or write in the chat box. We could take 1 or 2 questions, please.
Mr. Thomas, there's already some questions in
the chat box, sir. Questions are there, sir. Some of the questions.
Yeah. So if shall we take it up from our side, or okay? So we'll take up these questions. So the one question is about how the government is planning to involve small MSMEs in the activities of mining. So, Honorable Minister, would you like to comment?
No, he can.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, yes, sir.
What is your question?
So the question is, mining can be more, play a key role in the mining business, so that they also get a chance to work with the mining companies. So we could also take the answers and play it back to the questionnaires. We could take it offline and do it also, sir. It's not.
What is the question?
Sir, question ये है कि MSME companies जो mining के साथ में जुड़ा हुआ है, how can we give them more opportunities to work with the mining company? Is the government has a plan?
Yes, we will do necessary help with the
consultation with the MSME ministry. We are always ready to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another question is about graphite, because Mr. Agarwal from Agarwal Graphite asks how Orissa can regain its share of graphite production in India, because some years back Orissa used to be a prominent player. Now somehow it has come down. So can we increase that because we have resources in Orissa?
We have already taken a meeting on graphites, and if necessary, we will take again a second meeting on graphites.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Also, there is a question on is there any plans to increase chromite production and also to avoid delay, also help with the problems faced by the transporters related to chromite?
Yes, we are extending the production, and we will dialogue with the transporters to solve the problems.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking time to answer this. We will compile the entire, observations of today's session and bring it back to you and the ACS for necessary steps from the government. Thank you so much. May I request my co-chair, sir, are you saying something?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. May I request my co-chair, Mr. J.B. Pani, to kindly propose a note of thanks to all of us. We are just on time. Thank you so much. Mr. Pani, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to deliver the closing remarks and formal vote of thanks at the end of this very engaging session. I take this opportunity to convey my sincere gratitude to Shri Prafulla Kumar Malik, our Honorable Minister for Steel and Mines and Works, Government of Orissa, for not only his gracious presence at this web session, he has stayed right through and he took questions. We are so grateful to you, sir, and receiving your insights from you today. I would also like to thank Shri R.K. Sharma, Additional Chief Secretary, Department of Steel and Mines, Government of Orissa. Sir, your perspective of the entire mining industry and the way you guided the stormy, I would say the stormy seas of the auction and did it so very nicely. The entire government and the Honorable Minister and you and your entire team have done it so very nicely that it is quite an example for the rest of the world. And it was very heartening to know from you, sir, the way that Orissa has bounced back even during this COVID times. Shri D.K. Mahanti, CGM Mining, Orissa Mining Corporation. Sir, and your talk was elucidating, was very, very illustrative, and we really were very grateful to you for that. Shri Devaditya Biswal, IFS, Director of Mines, Department of Steel and Mines, Government of Orissa, for your valuable deliberations. Very big thanks to our own convener and member and core advisory committee of Steel and Mines Committee of Indian Chamber of Commerce, Odisha State, Mr. Manish Kharbanda. Your opening remarks and the theme address was very well taken. It set the tone for the entire discussion. I would also like to thank Mr. Sabyasachi Mahanti, Head Mining Operation, AMNS India, and Mr. Bidyut Chakravarti, Director, Metal and Mining Advisory, Infrastructure, Government and Healthcare Strategy and Operations, KPMG Advisory Services. It was so nice, and we would definitely look forward to your sharing your wonderful paper to all of us. Mr. A.D. Sao, COO of Ideal Explosives, you have very categorically stated the need for all the changes that has been made in the mining industry and the use of explosives. Mr. Prabodh Mahanti, our very own entrepreneur, MD of S&M Group, you of course set the perspective from the mining side. Thank you. And of course, my thanks to our chair, Mr. M.C. Thomas of Indian ICC State Council, and Mr. Amit Jain, Chief Operating Officer, Odisha Bauxite Business Vedanta, for your presence today. I thank the sponsors and our friends from the media for widely covering today's web session. I think the session would successfully capture the current Indian mining landscape and how public and private partnership-based mining can help boost the overall sector to contribute significantly to the employment and empowerment of the youth in India. Here, I would like to highlight a few salient points of the discussion. Odisha, which is a mineral-rich state, earns a major portion of its overall revenue from mining and metallurgy industry. The mining sector, including coal mining, not only helps Odisha to earn a significant amount of royalty, as KPMG figures showed, it's around 1,400 crores, but also caters to the raw material need of industries and thermal power plants across the country. The outbreak of the pandemic has left all the sectors devastated. Although mining and quarrying falls under essential services, but it also has been under the effects of lockdown for unavailability of labor and disruptions in transport of minerals. Operations of mines of iron ore, coking coal used in steel plant, thermal coal used in power plants, limestone, dolomite, manganese, chromite, as well as operations of ferroalloys and iron ore pellet plants, which are supply critical raw materials for steel making, had been excluded from the restrictions enforced during the lockdown. But in spite of this, mineral production has reduced, and because of the fall in numbers of workers in the mining areas and the logistical difficulties which has ensued. We also definitely would like to again emphasize that today the industrial logistics is going to be a major bottleneck, and this has to be addressed, and we discussed it in the conference today, and we would definitely like to take it forward. Under the circumstances for the pandemic and the liberalization of the mining sector by the government of India, the industry looks forward to automation-based technology in mining, and as the global manufacturers are shifting focus from China mineral-rich, Odisha has readied a bouquet of incentives, including relaxation in rules for setting up manufacturing units in the state. Odisha would pitch for more companies in metal, mineral, and mining space, given its strength in the sector. Lastly, as we overcome the pandemic, we should embrace ourselves with newer reforms and adopt new age technologies for making the mining industry one of the most powerful revenue generating and employment generating sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Dulalji, and that has been very nicely summarized, and really appreciate that for your efforts. Thank everyone. Once again, let me thank everyone, and we conclude it. Thank you once again, Honorable Minister. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
Many thanks.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Many thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you to everyone.
Bye.